You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast. I am your host, Richard Franzi, and this is podcast episode number 1072, and it's going to be a good show. The Children's Cerebral Palsy movement has been helping to improve the quality of lives and futures for children with cerebral palsy since February 2016. Founder Debbie Fragener, this cause is extremely personal and close to her heart. Debbie joins us, actually coming back on the show. Some loyal listeners may remember she was on our show before, because I want to talk to her about an upcoming event called the 5K Oh So Fit Fun Run, which is happening in just a month. Debbie, welcome back to Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast.
Hey, thank you so much, Rick, for inviting me back. So much has happened since I've been here.
I want to hear about all of it in the time we have. So let's start by maybe you could share a bit of your path to this organization. I said it was extremely personal to you and close to your heart, but maybe you can, for our audience who may not have heard your first interview, set the context.
Well, the context is this. I am the mother of a child with cerebral palsy named Maddie, and she happens to be 11 years old now. And over the course of the last 11 years, I've actually learned a very important life lesson, and that is to be the change that you wish to see in the world. And then once you resolve to do that you really do need to choose your traveling companions very, very wisely.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is, in my own life, I shepherded my own daughter. I've shepherded my own daughter for many years, doing as many as 10 therapy sessions per week. And finally, when she turned, to be 8.5, she turned to me and said, "Mommy, I'm just so tired of toiling every day. I just want to be a little girl. I want to have fun. I want to have friends. I want to learn to dance ballet." And I was, of course, taken aback by that. And after kind of, pulling myself together, I set about a month of research, uncovering every single thing I could that had to do with innovative rehabilitation that was happening in the realm of cerebral palsy, which there really wasn't much happening. And then I started looking at stroke and Parkinson's, various things. And what I found is that although there were promising things that could be done, nobody was doing them at the time in cerebral palsy due to lack of government funding. So I ended up resolving to start my own nonprofit and took the wisdom that I had gleaned, took my gut instinct of where I thought we could go, and pulled together a team of expert volunteers. And we ended up putting together an innovative therapeutic dance protocol that was later tested and proved very good results for the kids. And, that was called Ability Ballet. But then, since then, we expanded that into another program, which was really meant to help the community of cerebral palsy children and families where they lived in the community.
Well, Debbie, I remember when I first came in contact with you, and you remind me of it in spades here as we sit here in the studio today, the impact that one person with a vision and a mission can have in the world. And I continue to be impressed with what you're doing in support of not only your daughter, but the larger community of people and families who have cerebral palsy that has touched their life. You reminded me of something that I frankly had forgotten, that there wasn't a lot of focus from the government on this because there wasn't an interest in trying to help because they thought they couldn't help. But you're proving through these innovative collaboration of world-class people that it's multidisciplinary, but there can be breakthroughs.
Absolutely, and we believe that cerebral palsy is a diagnosis, not a destiny.
Yes,
and that
that's the words I was
when
looking for.
Given proper supports, the potential that these children can achieve is much greater than ever thought before. And as a matter of fact, a little interesting aside, I was talking to our long-term orthopedic surgeon the other day, and I was interviewing him, as a matter of fact, for our website, and he shared with me something that floored me. He said that as a result of dealing with me and my family for 9 years, that it actually changed the way he practiced medicine.
Wow.
Because he really learned to appreciate the decision-making process that I went through as I was bringing complementary medical and complementary therapeutic treatments to the table, and he could see that I had researched them, and he learned to trust in my judgment over time. He saw that we tried them, made reassessments and such, and the fact that he said that it actually changed the way he started treating children going forward was a pretty amazing thing. But Rick, if I may, I just want to go back to your original question was, why do you say choose your traveling companions
Yes,
wisely?
thank
And
you.
I really don't want to leave that point. What was really important is that, it started with a burning fire within me to help improve the quality of lives and long-term function for these kids. And oftentimes when people come across your path and they even partner with you, you might make assumptions that you're of one heart and mind, but sometimes people's understandings can be different, their hearts can be different. And so it's really, really important to make sure that, you are with like-minded traveling companions so that you can, really be equally vested in bringing about the results that are meant to happen.
And I don't know how many of you listening to the show, either live here on octalkradio.net or maybe as a podcast or watching the video live or YouTube, who've met Debbie personally, the force of her will is something to be reckoned with. And so I can imagine you need people around you who have the same level of intensity and commitment to the cause that I sense that you possess. One thing before we move on is you mentioned a couple other diagnoses, Parkinson, etc. And I'm just wondering, are you seeing that the work that your organization is helping to get done for cerebral palsy is kind of having a ripple effect into other areas for patients with other things other than cerebral palsy?
Well, actually, I want to say that the reason I was inspired to do what we did in the realm of cerebral palsy was because there were interesting things happening in stroke and Parkinson's rehab.
Okay.
And so I thought we could parlay those results into the realm of cerebral palsy and to actually treat highly motivating exercise as medicine, which is what we ended up doing.
I remember, oh my gosh, one of the events that I went to, and there was the conversation of how music, in addition to movement, can help with people with cerebral palsy, which was amazing to me, the advanced thinking and interrelated interdisciplinary activities that you were bringing together in one place to solve a common challenge that maybe on their own they would not have found each other or saw how they might interrelate.
Well, that's actually true. And the amazing thing is, as time goes on, I've learned that those same factors, the use of movement, the use of music, can absolutely be used in other domains,
Okay.
like academic tutoring and
goodness.
various other things to increase academic success
Right.
in a population that may otherwise be struggling. But one thing that we learned along the way is that we started out in the realm of research, and we ended up proving that taking a highly motivating physical activity, doing it therapeutically, that you could actually improve cognition, physical function, someone's feelings of self-worth and such. And research was great and really important. But what I really learned along the way is that I didn't really want to be doing research going forward,
Okay.
because I really saw the heartbeat of those children and those parents, and the fact that, oh my gosh, it wasn't just my own family that for 9 years at that point had been living in isolation, that, most of the community had,
Right.
that nobody had unified the cerebral palsy community. There was such a pent-up demand for socialization, for support, for access to resources, to be loved and served in a myriad of ways, and nobody was doing it. And so all of a sudden, it just became, critical to kind of expand the focus, if
Right.
you will, going forward. Yes, to really honor what we had done in the therapeutic laboratory, because other people then took those results and are building upon those, which long term will be hugely important.
Right.
But then our organization, our board, could then say, okay, well, what's the heartbeat of the community? What's the niche? What's really needed that nobody is doing? And we were able to be nimble in that way.
Okay, right.
And to really meet that need.
Wow.
And I have to tell you that has been the most exciting thing for me and for my family and actually for my board
That's
as
awesome.
well over the last several years.
Well, you know, this is a very inspiring story to hear your story, and I was excited to have you back. We're going to talk about the run that's coming up and the other activities that you're involved in, Debbie Fragner, but we're going to take a very short break here on Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast. For your loyal listeners, you know that this is a break that's like 30 seconds, so don't go too far and don't skip ahead, because we'll be right back after this word from me.
If you are an Orange County business executive, this message is for you. Do you ever feel isolated with no place to turn for advice or feedback? Who holds you accountable to your commitments in your company? Where do you find the right resources to help you and your company grow? If you have these questions, then Critical Mass for Business might be the answer for you. Critical Mass for Business is committed to helping you make better decisions. These are groups of peers running businesses just like you, providing a great sounding board to test ideas and concepts, review plans and goals, and present issues and opportunities for discussion. The result is improved strategy, accountability, people, and execution skills. If you are interested in learning more, go to www.criticalmassforbusiness.com and learn more about our executive peer group.
Welcome back to this edition of Critical Mass Radio Show and Podcast. I am your host, Richard Franzi. You know, a great way to stay informed about our guests is to sign up for our weekly newsletter. Simply go to my company's website, criticalmass4business.com. At the bottom of any page, there's a Join Our Mailing List box. Simply type in your email address and hit subscribe. And like magic, you'll start receiving our weekly newsletter with information about our upcoming guests like Debbie Fragner and special insights from me on occasion. We do nothing else with your email address other than put you in our newsletter database, and you only get one newsletter a week from me, which you can opt out of at any time. All right, as I said, we're talking with Debbie Fragner. She is the founder of the Children's Cerebral Palsy Movement, and I wanted to have you back on the show before the next event so that you could raise awareness of at least those people that are here in Southern California. I know there is a 5K coming up. Can you talk a little bit about what your organization is doing in support of that?
Absolutely. Well, let me say this. 2018 is an extremely important year for Children's Cerebral Palsy Movement. In a way, March 3rd, a date coming up very soon, is going to be a coming out party for us. In a way. We had, back in the fall of 2017, my board had this dream of hosting a cerebral palsy children's walk run. We researched it for a number of months and, ended up stumbling upon an opportunity that was like manna from heaven. Ended up befriending the director of recreation for the city of Mission Viejo. They had a vision. They had had a vision for a couple of years, actually, of doing a 5K walk run, fun run in conjunction with a community health fair that they do. But they had no plans immediately to do it, and they had certainly no vision of doing a children's run. But once I kind of cast my vision of what we were hoping to do, they said, hey, let's do it. The time is now.
Okay.
And so fast forward to today, in less than a month, we'll be carrying out this community, the OSO Fit Community Health Fair and 5K Fun Run, and simultaneously a children's walk run that's designed for actually children of all abilities. So not only is Children's Cerebral Palsy Movement a co-sponsor of the entire day's festivities,
Right.
which is extremely exciting for us, but we are the sole sponsor of the Children's Cerebral Palsy Walk Run, which is a run within a run. And once we decided to do that, The track team for Capistrano High School, the boys track team, came alongside and said, hey, we'd love to be running buddies for these kids.
Oh, my goodness.
Which was a dream come true, because can you imagine if you're in a wheelchair, if you're in a walker like my
Right.
daughter Maddie, you can't imagine being in a run like that. But heck, no, we're going to be able to do this. So we've actually charted out a fabulous quarter-mile and a half-mile course that are very flat and safe. And these kids are going to be able to participate alongside able-bodied peers. And they're going to be able to have fun and joy. They're going to have, these running buddies that are with them, cheering them on. And then, of course, you have other really special treats, like one of our board members, R.J. Mitty, actor R.J. Mitty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember, Rick, but, he has cerebral palsy. He was in the award-winning television series Breaking Bad. He was the host of the Paralympic Games in Rio. He's on our board, and he is such an amazing advocate. He and his mother are so passionate, of course, about cerebral palsy.
Right.
And RJ said, we will be there, we will be walking and running with the kids, and when it's time for them to cross the finish line, we'll be there to put medals around their necks.
Oh, wow.
And how fabulous is that every one of these children, able-bodied and CP alike, are going to be given special medals. They'll be cheered on. So it's just going to be a delight. And then after that event is over, Children's Cerebral Palsy Movement is sponsoring a post-event reception that is going to be incredibly fabulous, with entertainment, with food, thanks to our partners at True Foods, as well as Tutto Fresco Kitchen and Bar.
Oh, yeah. Good
We'll
food.
have corporate partners there as well. But what I'm really, really super excited about is that all of the initiatives that we've worked so hard to put together for the community, like professionally facilitated support groups, academic tutoring, social groups, other fun activities, a cerebral palsy family forum in conjunction with UCLA Orthopedic Institute, and just so much more. We're going to be able to introduce those on that day
Oh, my.
to these families in the midst of RJ Mitty and other actors that are going to be there.
Uh-huh.
And that will be the day where we truly begin to unify our community and come together to serve them and to love them, and to give them an opportunity to start filtering into our important programs we have for them.
Wow, that was very impassioned and very, again, it's the impact of one committed person to an idea, and how if you start searching, you find like-minded people. Your story about connecting with Mission Viejo is, so fortunate, right? That you were able to, and so quickly bring to what sounds like it's going to be an amazing event. And it's, again, March 3rd?
It is March 3rd, yes. So the actual children's run, the warm-up is at 9:15, with 9:30 being the start of that race. And then the festivities will take place after that on the order of about 10:15 or so. But can I just make one really important comment?
Yeah.
Just a real key life lesson I've learned here, particularly within the last 9 months, is that my family, as I said, being impacted by cerebral palsy, we lived in isolation for years. And then we finally stepped out. We finally risked. We went public, and we started advocating for others. But I think the thing that brings me the most joy at this, as I'm sitting here with you today, is the fact that we're able to put on this event because we've developed community of our own.
Right.
We have restaurants out there, like the executive chef at True Foods, like the owner of Tutto Fresco, like the director of recreation for the city, that truly believes in us and what we're doing, and they're saying, heck yeah, let's do it. Let's band together. You have RJ Mitty and his mother, Dana Mitting, calling up their friends and saying, y'all come join us. Let's support these kids. Let's help them get out and get fit, get out of the four walls,
Right.
and start improving the quality of their life. We have doctors, orthopedic surgeons that are saying the time is now to really recognize that exercise is the wave of the future of medicine, and they're beating this drum. They're going to be there too, honoring their clients, meeting them, walking with them, cheering them. Heck, to experience community ourselves is amazing, and it's going to make it so much easier to roll out these programs going forward.
So if someone's listening now, and hopefully they will hear this before the 3rd of March 2018, where do they go to learn more about the run and the specific work for CP and the work that you're doing in addition to the run? What website would you direct them to?
Well, our organizational name is Children's Cerebral Palsy Movement, and our website is ccpmovement.org. ccpmovement.org.
Right.
We're also on Facebook at Children's Cerebral Palsy Movement.org. Children's Cerebral Palsy Movement, and we're posting frequently about this. To actually register for the run, it can be done as a link on our website.
Good. So go to your website.
And then one thing
awesome.
that the city has so kindly offered to us, since we really are investing a lot of time and money in putting this race on, is anyone who registers for either the 5K or the Children's Run and designates Children's Cerebral Palsy Movement as the charity of choice, they'll donate the pre-registration fee back to us to help us as a nonprofit offset our expenses of putting this on.
That's
Is
awesome.
that so amazing?
That's awesome. Well, my friend, thank you for coming back and sharing an update on what's going on with you and your fine organization. I continue to be impressed. Thank you for being a friend of the program and a part of our community.
Well, thank you. I thank you for your friendship, and I welcome you to come join us that day if you can.
I would love to. All right, Paul, I'd like to thank you again for another great show as our engineer. We have wonderful producers. Couldn't do this without Joan Park, Crystal Nunley, and Haley Stern. Also, if you'd like to connect with me on social media, I would say start with Twitter. My handle is CEO Peer Groups. On LinkedIn, I'm Richard Franzi, spelled Franzi. My website, simple, Critical Mass 4, F-O-R, criticalmass4business.com. Until the next show, I hope all of your business decisions will move your company in a positive direction.
You have been listening to Critical Mass Radio Show Business Talk Show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.